There's a strange rule in modern life no one speaks aloud, but almost everyone follows. Be okay. Smile through it. Stay positive. We post it, preach it, pretend it, until we start to believe that our worth is measured by how good we can feel at all times. But here's the truth. Constant positivity isn't peace. It's performance. We've turned happiness into a benchmark of success and sadness into something to apologize for. We think healing means smiling again, not facing what hurts. But what if your sadness is not a problem? What if your anxiety isn't a glitch to fix, but a message to decode? Let's talk about the hidden cost of pretending to be okay when you're not, and why the most radical act of healing is to stop running from your emotions. Stay positive. It sounds like good advice, encouraging, uplifting, harmless. But what if this well-meaning mantra is slowly disconnecting us from ourselves, from our truth, and from the full spectrum of what it means to be human? In a world obsessed with positivity, it's easy to mistake discomfort for failure, to see sadness as weakness, to believe that anger, grief, and fear are problems to solve rather than messages to hear. And yet, beneath the constant smile, beneath the forced gratitude and toxic cheerfulness, there's a quiet ache, a longing to be allowed to feel without apology. This video is not about staying negative, it's about staying true. Because emotional authenticity is not the opposite of growth, it's the path to it. There's a pressure we rarely talk about. The pressure to smile when you're breaking, to stay hopeful when your heart is heavy, to speak light when your world feels dark. Somewhere along the way, we were taught that positivity is strength and anything less is weakness. But what if that's not true? What if forced optimism is just another mask, one that hides pain, denies truth, and slowly silences the soul? This video is not about abandoning hope, it's about reclaiming honesty. Because real strength isn't in pretending everything is okay, it's in facing what isn't. Look around. We are surrounded by messages that say, good vibes only, think happy thoughts, manifest joy. And yes, mindset matters. Optimism can be powerful, but when positivity becomes a rule, not a tool, something shifts. You start feeling guilty for being sad. You hide your anger because it's not high vibe. You suppress fear instead of exploring what it's trying to tell you. This is not emotional intelligence. This is emotional repression. Modern psychology calls it emotional bypassing. It's when we use positivity to avoid discomfort instead of working through it. It's not healing, it's hiding. And over time, hiding becomes exhausting. Because when you pretend to be okay long enough, you start to forget what real okayness even feels like. We live in a world addicted to good vibes only. But what happens when you're not okay? When your world is falling apart and all you hear is, stay positive, be grateful, look on the bright side. This is where emotional gaslighting begins. You're told that feeling sadness means you're weak, that anger makes you toxic, that expressing discomfort means you're ungrateful. And so, you begin to doubt your inner world. You silence it. You smile while you're breaking. You say, I'm fine when you're not. And the scariest part? People applaud you for it. You're praised for being strong, for handling it well, for keeping your pain invisible. But invisible pain doesn't go away. It festers. You wake up, and already the pressure begins. Be grateful. Smile. Say something nice. Look on the bright side. Toxic positivity rarely wears a name tag. It doesn't scream. It whispers, don't be so negative. Others have it worse. Just be happy. And so you try. You silence the ache in your chest with mantras. You decorate your pain with pretty words. You swallow your truth, not because it's healed, but because it's inconvenient. The world loves a good mood. It rewards the upbeat, the cheerful, the inspiring. but it punishes the real. Because real is messy, real is uncomfortable, real doesn't always fit in 15-second sound bites. So what happens when you pretend for too long? You begin to lose touch with yourself. You start smiling out of habit, not feeling. You say, "I'm fine," more often than you ask yourself if it's even true. And underneath it all, the unspoken truth hardens. You're exhausted not just from life, but from hiding how life actually feels. There is a loneliness in always being okay, a kind of spiritual isolation that comes from never feeling safe to say, "I'm not doing well." The more you perform happiness, the more disconnected you become from others, from your body, from your truth. You can meditate, hydrate, and journal all you want. But if you're doing it to avoid your real emotions, you're just spiritually bypassing. We don't heal by faking light. We heal by holding space for the dark. Somewhere along the way, we were taught that to be strong is to be smiling, to endure with grace, to hide the pain beneath a carefully curated affirmation. Everything happens for a reason. Look on the bright side. It could be worse. But what happens when those words don't comfort? They suffocate? When grief knocks on your door and instead of letting it sit beside you, you hand it a gratitude journal and ask it to leave quietly? There's a cost to this kind of light, a cost to plastering sunshine over a soul that's aching for rain. Because not all storms need to be silenced, some need to be felt. Real strength isn't denial, it's presence. It's saying, "I'm hurting," and allowing that to be true. In the name of healing, many have learned to bypass their pain, calling it letting go when really, it's more like burying it alive. But what's buried never dies. It lingers. In your chest, in your sleep, in your disconnection from joy. The shadow of forced positivity is subtle, but it's heavy. It tells you that unless you're happy, you're doing life wrong. It tells you that your sadness is an inconvenience, that your anger is unattractive, that your fear is weakness. But those emotions, they're not the enemy. They're the messengers. They're the pulse of a life deeply lived. What if you allowed yourself to feel without judgment, to be disappointed without rushing to say, "It's okay," to feel lost without immediately reframing it as an opportunity to grow, to sit with your sorrow without diluting it with silver linings? This is the revolution. To feel what's real, to stop performing peace, to stop apologizing for your humanity. Because the truth is, you don't have to be positive all the time, but you do have to be honest. You start to notice the cracks, not in others, but in yourself. Moments where your mask slips, where your smile falters, where you hear yourself say, "I'm fine," and for the first time feel the sharpness of that lie. This is the beginning of something new, not dramatic or loud, but honest. And honesty, when you've spent years abandoning yourself, feels like rebellion. You stop forcing optimism where truth is needed. You begin to sit with discomfort instead of fixing it. You pause before performing, before pleasing, before disappearing. Here, psychological healing begins. Because healing isn't just about soothing pain, it's about reconnecting with what's real. Practice micro-honesty. Say one small true thing each day that you'd normally hide. Let your nervous system relearn that truth is safe. Tune into your physical cues. Self-betrayal lives in the body. If your stomach tightens, your breath shortens, or your chest aches, pause, ask, "What truth am I avoiding right now?" Use the pause. When asked to do something, instead of your usual, "Sure, try," "Let me get back to you." That one phrase can create the space needed for self-connection. These are small practices, but over time, they build something revolutionary. Trust, not in the world, not in others, in yourself. This is the shift. Stop performing wellness. Start practicing wholeness. Wholeness isn't about always being happy. It's about being real. Here are some practical ways to return to yourself. Name your emotions without judgment. Instead of, I'm being dramatic, try, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Feel them in your body. Notice the tightness, the tension, the weight. Emotions live in the body. Let them move. Speak micro-truths. If you can't say, I'm falling apart, start with, I'm not at my best today. Take off the pressure to fix. Healing isn't linear. It's messy, cyclical, and deeply human. Limit exposure to toxic positivity. Unfollow accounts that shame real emotion. Protect your psyche from emotional denial. Remember, self-honesty is not self-pity. It's self-respect. And as that trust grows, something else happens. You begin to crave less approval and more alignment. You notice that your energy rises when your life reflects your values. That even hard conversations feel better than silent resentment. That clarity feels like peace. This is not selfishness. This is self-return. And returning to yourself is the most powerful thing you can do. Not because it's easy, but because everything you truly want, joy, connection, freedom, can only be found from that place. And so, piece by piece, you rebuild. From integrity, not image. From inner truth, not outer pressure. From presence, not performance. And what begins as a whisper becomes a voice, yours. Toxic positivity doesn't just silence discomfort, it rewires your brain to fear it. When we constantly force ourselves to look on the bright side, we teach our nervous system that difficult emotions are unsafe, that sadness is shameful, that anger is dangerous, that grief must be fixed. But your emotions were never meant to be problems to solve. They are messengers, signals from your subconscious that something matters. When you ignore those signals, you don't heal, you fragment. Psychologist Susan David calls this emotional rigidity. When we become so attached to positive thinking that we lose emotional agility. We no longer respond to life authentically. We react from habit, from fear, from discomfort with discomfort itself. Practice emotional granularity. Instead of saying, I'm fine or I'm sad, go deeper. Are you disappointed? Overwhelmed? Lonely? Guilty? Naming your emotions with precision activates your prefrontal cortex, allowing you to understand and process them rather than suppress them. Make space for shadow work. Shadow work isn't darkness, it's integration. Carl Jung taught that what you resist not only persists, but grows in size. When you explore the parts of you that feel inconvenient, you reclaim your wholeness. This doesn't mean indulging in negativity, it means allowing yourself to feel without shame. Create emotionally honest habits. Instead of a gratitude journal filled with forced affirmations, try a dual journal. One side for what you're grateful for, the other for what feels hard or unresolved. This builds emotional balance, not blind optimism. Because here's the paradox. When you allow yourself to feel fully, you suffer less. Not because pain goes away, but because it stops being something you fear. The irony? When you finally allow yourself to not be okay, you begin to heal. Because healing doesn't begin in performance. It begins in permission. Permission to cry, to pause, to feel without needing to justify. You don't need to be positive all the time. You just need to be present. The next time someone tells you to stay positive, try something radical instead. Stay honest. Because a life built on emotional truth is more sustainable than one built on forced smiles. And in a world obsessed with looking fine, the greatest rebellion is to feel fully. We've been taught that strength looks like smiling through the pain, like bouncing back quickly, like not letting anything get to you. But what if true strength is the opposite? What if real resilience is not pretending you're okay, but staying present with yourself when you're not? What if healing doesn't mean never feeling broken, but learning to hold your brokenness with compassion? Self-regulation is not suppression. Being able to sit with your emotions, to breathe through discomfort, to witness your sadness without numbing it, is a form of emotional maturity that builds inner peace, not just performance. Validate yourself before seeking solutions. Before trying to change your mindset or shift your thoughts, try saying, "It makes sense that I feel this way." This simple sentence breaks the cycle of shame and opens the door to gentle change. Build an emotional vocabulary with others. Tell your friends, "You don't have to fix me. Just sit with me." Tell yourself, "I can hold joy and grief at the same time." This is how emotional intelligence becomes collective, not just internal. The world doesn't need more positive people. It needs more honest people. More humans who are willing to say, "I'm struggling today," and that's okay. Because when you allow yourself to be human, you give others permission to be human too. And from that place, real connection happens. Not performance, not perfection, but presence. So no, you don't have to be positive all the time. You just have to be real. And in that truth lies your freedom. If this message resonated, subscribe to Mind Hacking, share your thoughts in the comments, and remember, real healing begins where pretending ends.